Classic TV. Wholesome, nostalgic, and sometimes too spicy for the censors. That's right, behind the laugh tracks and black and white charm lurk episodes deemed too controversial, too weird, or just plain too much for broadcast. Today we're flipping through the forbidden pages of television history with some classic TV episodes that were banned, censored, or hidden away like your weird uncle's VHS collection. Let's dim the lights and crank the rabbit ears. This is about to get juicy.
I'm gonna kill him.
George Takei and Neville Brand. One attic, one samurai sword, and one very uncomfortable conversation about World War II. The encounter wasn't your typical Twilight Zone tale with aliens or time travel. This one stayed grounded and painfully human. Neville Brand plays a bitter war vet. George Takei plays a Japanese-American gardener. They're trapped in an attic, but it's not the door that's locked. It's decades of trauma, racism, and guilt. Things get dark fast. Confessions are made. Ghosts of war creep in. And a cursed samurai sword? Yeah, it talks. Allegedly. CBS aired it once in 1964, then quietly buried it deeper than the sword for being too raw, too real, and too soon. It didn't resurface until over 50 years later, when it aired on the Sci-Fi Channel during a marathon, giving fans a look at the most banned episode of The Twilight Zone, one that proved sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones inside us.
A baby?
Lucy gets pregnant. But wait, can we even say that on TV in 1952? Apparently not. The word pregnant was considered far too anatomical for prime time. CBS nearly fainted. The network debated whether audiences could even handle the concept of a married woman doing what married people, well, do. It took Desi Arnaz going to bat, charming censors in 2 languages, to get the storyline approved. Even then, they tiptoed around the term, opting for the elegant French word enceinte. Because when you say it in French, it's classy, not scandalous. The episode broke barriers, drew in record ratings, and led to the birth of Little Ricky, and maybe the sitcom baby boom that followed. It wasn't banned, but it was a battle, and for 1950s TV, that was revolutionary.
Oh, you boys are gonna love your old pal George Liquor.
Ren, Stimpy, and George Liquor, American. In 1992, Nickelodeon asked, what's the worst that could happen if we let Ren and Stimpy push the envelope? The answer, this episode. Man's Best Friend features a militaristic dog owner named George Liquor, yes, really, who trains Ren and Stimpy with military discipline and meaty rewards. So far, so weird. But then, Ren snaps and proceeds to beat George Liquor with an oar, slowly, repeatedly, in a scene that feels like Tex Avery meets A Clockwork Orange. Nickelodeon took one look and said, absolutely not. The episode was pulled before it ever aired, the show's creator John Kricfalusi was fired, and Man's Best Friend became the holy grail of banned cartoons. It finally aired in 2003, but not on Nickelodeon. It showed up on Spike TV, where the motto was basically, we show the stuff your mom hates. This wasn't just a pulled episode, it was a career-ending, parents panicking, or swinging mess of controversy.
What's going on here? We're preparing to defend our country, Lady Lane.
When you think of Mr. Rogers, you think of cardigans, fish tanks, and calm chats about feelings. But in 1983, Mr. Rogers said, let's talk about nuclear annihilation. The 5-part conflict arc was Mr. Rogers' attempt to help children understand war, fear, and the looming shadow of global destruction, specifically the threat of nuclear weapons. King Friday starts amassing defenses in the neighborhood of make-believe, tensions rise, and puppets start prepping for potential disaster. It was bold, it was timely, and it was terrifying. Parents and stations were shaken. PBS quietly pulled the arc from rotation, and for decades, it became the show's unofficial lost episodes. They weren't seen again until 2017, when they suddenly appeared online, and honestly, they still hit hard. It's a surreal moment in children's television, when even the friendliest man on earth had to admit, sometimes the world is a scary place.
What's wrong, Wilma? Indians, and they're after Fred and Barney.
Fred and Barney go west, and unfortunately, so do the stereotypes. In this 1961 episode, the Flintstones and Rebels head to a dude ranch, where Fred and Barney get roped into a series of Wild West misadventures, including a barroom brawl, mistaken identity, and a run-in with hostile Indians. Except those Indians are actually actors in a TV Western shoot. Cue the feathered headdresses, whooping war cries, and portrayals that some found more silly than sensitive. While it aired in the US without issue, some Canadian broadcasters pulled it over concerns about its depiction of Native Americans. Whether you see it as a harmless product of its time or a misstep that didn't age well, it's one of the few Flintstones episodes that ended up stuck in syndication limbo.
David, what is this? Some kind of a game?
What is this, David? Some kind of a game?
In 1976, Sesame Street decided to teach kids about fear by bringing in the Wicked Witch of the West. Yes, that Wicked Witch, played once again by Margaret Hamilton, who melted hearts and terrified children in The Wizard of Oz. In episode 847, she swoops into Sesame Street to retrieve her lost broom, causing chaos, gusts of wind, and a level of witchy menace that sent preschoolers diving behind the couch. The goal? Help kids confront and understand fear. The result? Hundreds of angry letters from parents saying their kids were traumatized for life. And probably a few broken broomsticks around the house. PBS pulled the episode after a single broadcast. It remained locked in the vault for decades, becoming a kind of Sesame Street urban legend, until it resurfaced in 2019 as part of a special event at the Museum of the Moving Image. Was it too intense for a kids' show? Maybe. Or maybe it was just ahead of its time and a little too good at its job.
He's killed her. The devil's killed her.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents always had a taste for the macabre, but this one went too far, even for the master of suspense. In The Sorcerer's Apprentice, a mentally unstable young drifter named Hugo is taken in by a magician. Soon, Hugo becomes obsessed with the magic act, and with the magician's glamorous assistant, who also happens to be his less than faithful wife. But when the line between illusion and reality blurs, things take a dark and gruesome turn, culminating in a scene involving a sewing a woman in half trick that doesn't exactly go by the book. The ending was so disturbing, especially for early 60s television, that NBC refused to air the episode at all. It was pulled before broadcast and didn't see the light of day until decades later in syndication. And the final shot still lingers like a bad dream.
Is this all right?
Thirtysomething broke new ground and then immediately hit a wall. In the episode Strangers, two gay characters, Russell and Peter, are shown in bed together after spending the night. There's no kissing, no nudity, just two men talking, in a moment of quiet intimacy rarely seen on TV at the time. Still, it was enough to spark a backlash. Several major advertisers pulled their support, costing ABC over $1.5 million. And while the episode did air, it was quietly pulled from rerun rotation and left out of syndication for years. For some, it was a step forward. For others, a step too far. But no matter where you stand, it marked a turning point in how television portrayed gay characters. Not with punchlines, but with humanity. It was the final season of Seinfeld, and the gang was going out with a bang. Or, in this case, a traffic jam. Jerry and the crew get stuck in gridlock during the annual parade and spiral into a series of awkward misadventures. But the episode hit a nerve when Kramer accidentally sets a Puerto Rican flag on fire, then proceeds to stomp on it. The backlash was immediate. NBC pulled the episode from reruns, and protests followed, including from Puerto Rican advocacy groups and New York politicians. The network later issued an apology, and the episode stayed shelved for years. Eventually, it returned to circulation in syndication and on DVD, but the controversy stuck around longer than Kramer did at the parade. From Cold War paranoia to witches on children's TV, these episodes pushed the limits of what classic television could show, and sometimes they pushed too far. So next time you flip on that old rerun, remember, you might be watching the sanitized version. Like, subscribe, and drop your favorite band or lost TV moment in the comments. And if anyone asks, this video never existed.